Hello everyone, let's start with a new topic. Archaic Homo Sapiens, Homo Heidelbergensis, Rhodesian Man, Jinniushan Man and Narmada Man. So before proceeding on to the introduction, let's take a brief look at the overall evolutionary trajectory that finally culminated in the Homo sapiens. So we belong to the animal kingdom. From animal kingdom, one line diverged into mammals after the KPG extinction event that led to the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs. And here, the fresh conditions were provided by elimination of such giant predators. Then, uh, during that time, mammals they led to evolution of primates. Then, from primates, they were Australopithecines. Australopithecines led to Homo habilis, then Homo erectus, and then Homo sapiens. Now, I may have drawn a simple linear trajectory, a linear chart, but that is not true. The, the whole evolutionary journey started with the animal and culminated in Homo sapiens. It is not linear. There were many branches. Even primate, they are distributed among Hylobatidae, Haplorhini, Strepsirrhini, then Australopithecines. There are many जो पिछली वीडियो में देखा था. They are gracile Australopithecines. They are robust Australopithecines. Where one of the branch it led to Homo habilis. Then there are many Homo habilis in different parts of the world with the parallel and debated evolutionary trajectory. And then there are Homo erectus. In that too, as we do not have that much fossil evidence, but जितना भी है उससे ये है कि there might be simultaneous or parallel lines coexisting together, and one of those lines they led to modern Homo sapiens. फिर उसके बीच में भी Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. They are anatomically modern Homo sapiens or archaic Homo sapiens. Then they are Neanderthals, then Denisovans. So the whole trajectory that we finally trace at the presence of Homo sapiens, it is quite varied and distributed. And until further excavation are done and further fossil evidences with the anvil of modern technological advancements, we are not sure how we reach from the animal branch to the Homo sapiens. But one thing is true, we belong to this kingdom. We are part of this animal kingdom and we are animal ourselves. So the introduction, the term archaic Homo sapiens refers to human population that lived between roughly 600,000 to 200,000 years ago. Now, the modern Homo sapiens, they emerged around 300,000. And now we are talking about the upper limit that is situated 300,000 years more. So in that gap, there lies certain elements, certain mosaic species that we call archaic Homo sapiens that exhibit a mixture of both primitive, ancestral, and modern traits. And they are considered transitional forms between Homo erectus and modern Homo sapiens. Now, the general characteristic. So, archaic Homo sapiens, they represent a crucial evolutionary bridge between Homo erectus and anatomically modern Homo sapiens sapiens. Like जो अभी हम जो हैं, the present जो animal species, wise animal species हैं, Homo sapiens, तो we are Homo sapiens sapiens, a subspecies under Homo sapiens. And these archaic Homo sapiens, the bridge species, the bridge Homo sapiens, they display a mosaic, a mixture of features, primitive and advanced, which reflect a gradual evolutionary transformation. First बात करते हैं cranial features की. So they show significant development in cranial morphology compared to Homo erectus. But again, when we are talking about the mosaic nature, it means they might have some primitive features because this isn't an overnight journey of morphological advancement. कुछ primitive features तो रहेंगे ही. So that's why they had not achieved the full glacialization and vaulting of modern humans. Vaulting, which means the skull shape. Now the cranial capacity, so it ranges between 1100 to 1400 cubic centimeter, which is a significant leap from Homo erectus around 900 cc and from Homo habilis, which average around 610 to 700 cc, to Australopithecines who were around 550 cc. And this expansion it suggests increase in cognitive abilities, include complex tool use, hunting coordination, and perhaps rudimentary symbolic thinking. Now the cranial bone structure. So the skull bones, they are thick and heavily built. So if cranial bones are thick, which means it is a primitive feature that has been retained from early hominins. And these thick cranial bones might have served as a structural adaptation to physical stress or trauma in prehistoric environment, especially the environment in which archaic Homo sapiens were living, the environment of Pleistocene time, and पहले भी आपको बताया the Pliocene, Pleistocene. Pliocene was a time of climate fluctuation, but at milder level. But Pleistocene, it was the peak of climate fluctuation, full of glacier and interglacial periods. और उसमें फिर हर तरह का adaptive stress was high, predator threat was high, फिर उसमें physical stress and trauma ज़रूरी था. और ऐसे में फिर to prevent our species from such traumatic events, cranial bones they were thick. Here again, primitive feature, the brow ridges, the supraorbital tori. Tori plural है torus का. So the supraorbital torus या brow ridges they are prominent and double arch, which is a trait inherited from Homo erectus, a primitive trait. But now अब हर एक trait के अंदर there has been a dilution. You can see the dilution. So the change that is beginning to emerge is the brow ridges they are thicker in middle but tapering at the side, which show early signs of modern craniofacial morphology. Means अब ब्रो ridges जो है वो धीरे धीरे डायल्यूशन हो रहा है, उतनी प्रोमिनेंट नहीं है जितनी होमो इरेक्टस के अंदर थी. फिर स्कल शेप की बात करते हैं. द क्रेनियल वॉल्ट मीन्स अपर स्कल जिसके अंदर ब्रेन एग्जिस्ट करता है. So the cranial vault it became less angular and more globular. Globular means जो हमारे स्कल का शेप है इस शेप में. तो अब एंगुलर से जो शेप है वो अगेन शिफ्टिंग टुवर्ड्स मॉडर्न cranial morphology. एंड द फोरहेड वो स्टिल स्लोपिंग बट मोर वर्टिकल देन होमो इरेक्टस. नाउ ये कुछ फीचर्स हैं और यहाँ पे कुछ ये थोड़े कंफ्यूजिंग से हैं. लेट मी इलैबोरेट. लुक, modern human morphology of skull, we have a globular skull in which only a slightly visible occipital bun is there. We do not have the prominent brow ridges, and our skull is far less angular. Then our forehead, it is vertical. आप खुद देख सकते हैं अपने आप को in mirror. Whereas जो primitive features हैं होमो इरेक्टस से फिर पीछे जाते हुए आप होमो इरेक्टस, होमो हैबिलिस, प्राइमेट जिनमें भी देखें तो दे हैव अ स्लोपिंग फोरहेड. स्लोपिंग फोरहेड मींस फोरहेड it is not vertical, it is slightly sloping backwards, slightly angling backward. So the same primitive feature archaic Homo sapiens में भी है, but a slight change is there that it is shifting towards more vertical shape, which is like similar to that of modern Homo sapiens. And then this vertical shape, it also suggests expansion of the prefrontal cortex. फिर बात करते हैं occipital region की. So in many populations, such as Homo heidelbergensis, a thickened occipital area or occipital bun is observed. So this is again a primitive feature. Occipital bun means जो आपके skull के पीछे की साइड में है. तो मॉडर्न होमोसेपियंस में तो बन है नहीं, हमारा तो ग्लोबुलर है और राउंड एंड स्मूथ है. आवर स्कल इज राउंड एंड स्मूथ. बट हम प्रिमिटिव ट्रेड्स की बात कर रहे हैं या फिर आर्केक होमोसेपियंस की, जो स्कल शेप है व्हेन सीन फ्रॉम इस ये शेप, यहाँ पे जो स्कल का जो ये वाला शेप होता है, लाइक यू आर सीइंग एनी स्कल फ्रॉम साइडवेज, ऑब्लिक वे। ऑब्लिक में ये स्कल पीछे जो बन रहता है ये वाला, ये कहलाता है ऑक्सीपिटल बन। हमारे में ये ऑक्सीपिटल बन है नहीं, हमारे में ये स्मूथ एंड ग्लोबुलर है। प्रिमिटिव फर्स्ट, ये पॉइंट यहाँ से, दिस सजेस्ट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ लो रिजेस। यहाँ से बस फोरहेड इट इज स्लोपिंग बैकवर्ड, फिर उसके बाद बैक ऑफ द स्कल देयर इज अ बन, फिर स्कल इस तरह से, देन ये पे जॉ है। ये जो शेप है, आई एम नॉट वेरी गुड एट ड्राइंग, बट आप लोग समझ गए कि व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट। ये इस तरह से उनका स्कल, और हमारा जो स्कल है मॉडर्न होमोसेपियंस का, वी हैव मोर राउंडेड स्कल दिस वे। और जो बन है वो नहीं है, देयर इज स्लाइट मूवमेंट, दैट स्लाइट अटैचमेंट विद द नेक मसल्स। उसके अलावा हमारे ये जो ऑक्सीपिटल बन है, दिस इज एब्सेंट इन मॉडर्न होमोसेपियंस। Anyway, so the presence of occipital region or occipital bun both signal complex regional adaptation and muscular neck attachment whenever the physical stress is heavy. और आप देखेंगे archaic Homo sapiens, most of them they have a strong and stocky build. फिर facial features की बात करते हैं, first prognathism. Prognathism means the projection of the jaw, the sticking out of face. So the prognathism, it has been reduced, which is again a key change towards modern Homo sapiens. And so archaic human, they had flatter face with less prognathism, especially in the mid face region. So the jawline hai, they are reducing. This change, it allowed for a better alignment for eyes and jaw, and might have served as a sophisticated vocal aider. Then nasal aperture. So nasal or nasal, the nasal region, it becomes broader and more prominent, especially in colder climate. Now, post prognatism तो आपको समझ में आ गया, जब jaw and the face है, when it sticks out, especially uh, when we are talking about the primitive Homo sapiens or primitive hominids, तो उन सब के अंदर हम देख रहे थे कि some have massive jaw, massive molars, premolars, even protruding canines. तो जो फेस बाहर निकला होता है, that projection is known as prognathism. और मॉडर्न होमोसेपियंस में हमारा जो है फेस जो है फ्लैट है। तो यहाँ पे जो आर्केक होमोसेपियंस है, तो दे वाज प्रोजेक्शन बट दे वर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स फ्लैटर फेसेस। फिर नेजल अपर्चर की बात करते हैं, तो यहाँ पे archaic Homo sapiens, they had broader and prominent nasal region. Now, इस nasal region के बारे में I want to know why the Allen's and Bergman rule. And आप लोगों में से बहुत लोग जो यूजीसी की प्रिपरेशन है वो जानते ही हैं, यूजीसी यूपीएससी दोनों के एलेंस एंड बर्गमैन रूल। So they are about the climatic adaptation to both cold and hot climate. तो उसके लिए जो फिजिकल अडेप्टेशन है, उनमें जो बॉडीली अडेप्टेशन के अलावा देयर इज अ थिंग अबाउट नेजल अडेप्टेशन, नेजल स्ट्रक्चर। नेजल मींस जो नॉस्ट्रिल्स हैं और नेजल पैसेजवे है, दोनों का अडेप्टेशन इन बोथ द क्लाइमेट, कोल्ड एंड हॉट क्लाइमेट, नोस्ट्रिल एंड नेजल पैसेजवे। अब जो समझाने लायक चीज ये है दैट यूजुअली कोल्ड क्लाइमेट के अंदर द नोज, दे आर नैरो एंड लॉन्ग। नैरो एंड लॉन्ग क्यों? क्योंकि the cold and dry air, it should not directly reach the lungs. Otherwise, it may freeze them, और lungs freeze हो जाएंगे तो ultimately जो respiration activity है, it will die out, और उसके साथ ही the organism would die also. फिर hot climate की बात करते हैं, यहाँ पे जो nose है, it should be broader and nose should be shorter, क्योंकि जो वार्म एयर है First, when it reaches the passageway, it should cool down first by the presence of cilia, और फिर उसके बाद it should reach the lungs. That's the general rule for physical adaptation during both cold and hot climate. फिर यहाँ पे एक slight modification है. We are talking about Pleistocene. Pleistocene epoch in which the climate was fluctuating rapidly between glacial and interglacial ages. So first, the nasal structure, it should have been such should have been optimized in such a way that it could survive this fluctuation, sometime cold, sometime hot. फिर जो archaic Homo sapiens हैं, most of the species they live during this time, Pleistocene, and they face such climate and into the climate fluctuation. Where they were also living in, they were also adapted in cold and arid environment. तो यहाँ पे जो उनकी nasal adaptation है, nasal structure है, it is, you can say, customized for that time. And that customization is that uh, these archaic Homo sapiens, they had broader and prominent nasal region, which was necessary for to warm the inhaled air. Now the thing is, this feature is anomaly of Allen and Bergman too, but still this was a localized and customized adaptation for that time. तो यहाँ पे जो broader nose है, it was for that time cold and arid condition. ये conditions are cold, air is cold but also dry. So for cold and dry air, they had the broader nose so that the incoming air it can be warm and then inhaled without damaging the lungs. और ये मैंने इसलिए समझा है बिकॉज आगे किसी न किसी टॉपिक में जो एलन एंड बर्गमैन रूल आएगा, और एलन बर्गमैन रूल आएगा तब दिस दिस माइट साउंड कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी. तो ये आपको समझाए कि दिस वाज अ पर्टिकुलर अनोमली दैट वाज कस्टमाइज्ड फॉर दैट एनवायरनमेंट. Now the dental traits. So teeth, they are large and robust. Again, a primitive feature that was suited for heavy chewing, but there is a gradual dilution, a mellowing down, gradual reduction in size, especially the molars, which reflects the dietary change and possibly the use of tool to process food so that ये जो food है ये soft हो जाएगा, तो जो jaw का stress, also known as the masticatory stress, it can be reduced. तो डेंटल ट्रेट, डेंटल स्ट्रक्चर, डेंटिशन, ये शुरू से हम बात कर रहे हैं जब से हम प्राइमेट्स के बारे में, प्राइमेट से ऑस्ट्रेलोपिथेसिस, हैबिलिस के और इरेक्टस सब के बारे में पढ़ा. तो वी नो कि डेंटिशन का इफेक्ट जो जो क्रेनियल फीचर्स हैं, जो स्केलेटल फीचर्स हैं, पोस्ट क्रेनियल फीचर्स पे किस किस तरह से कितना प्रोमिनेंट है. नाउ द नेक्स्ट फीचर, zygomatic arches, also known as cheekbones. Cheekbones जो है, they are pronounced in archaic Homo sapiens, but not as pronounced, not as flaring as in earlier hominins. So this facial adaptation, it indicate powerful jaw musculature, but then a gradual dilution towards a mixed diet that consists of plant, animal resources, but the processed foods. Now, postcranial features. So the body structure, it suggests they had body structure of strength, endurance, and environmental adaptability, which was necessary for survival in harsh Pleistocene epoch. For limb bones, the long bones, they are thick and sturdy, both in hands and leg. And then muscle attachment on the bones, it suggests high level of physical activity and mobility. So most of them, most of the archaic Homo sapiens, they were engaged in heavy physical work, physical stress. Now, body size and proportions. So they were taller and more muscular than modern humans. For instance, the Jinniushan fossil from China, it belonged to a female estimated to be over 170 centimeter tall. This you can see. वैसे हम लोग आज के टाइम में देखते हैं Chinese people, they are usually of short stature. But this fossil of a female of over 170 centimeter tall, And when you consider sexual dimorphism, so the male usually would be around 183, 185 centimeter tall, which means over 6 feet. So that's a good, solid, stocky, or heavily built body structure. Then sexual dimorphism. So clear sexual dimorphism is there. Males were significantly larger and more robust than female. तो उसके हिसाब से जो ये फॉसल है, जीन वशान फॉसल, अगर फीमेल 170 तो मेल might have been around 190 centimeter with more muscles and more robusticity than females. Where cultural and technological traits, archaic Homo sapiens display considerable advancement in technology, social organization, and cognitive abilities. So first, they use a combination of Acheulean hand axes and Levallois prepared board techniques, which evolved later towards Mousterian tool culture, which were associated with Neanderthals. And the tools used by archaic Homo sapiens were more refined, standardized, and functionally diverse than simpler older one or Acheulean tools. Then, as a fire and shelter, there have been evidence from various sites, such as Terra Amata in France, Drucodian in China, that suggests controlled use of fire for cooking, warmth, and protection. And there might be some simple constructed structure known as shelters where, as of subsistence and hunting, so they were efficient hunter-gatherers, often engaging in cooperative hunting of large animals such as mammoths, horse, and deer. So again, this might have been imminent, this might have been implied since they were robust, they had the best of the tool yet, and the physical stature, they it speaks about their endurance, the physical stress they could endure. So SMA, this thing should have been there, and this might be the reason that they survived this long and they could survive in that harsh atmosphere. Where the cooperative hunting was necessary, especially of large animal, because large animal acted like large calories, large calorie, large reward. So again, this was a survival adaptation. Now proceed on to symbolism and burial. So although no direct evidence is there, but some sites show evidence of intentional burials, such as this one, Cima de los Visos in Spain, which indicate early symbolic or ritual behavior. Where, as of social organization, they likely lived in small band and tribe, क्योंकि cooperative hunting के लिए this group cohesion was necessary. So if they were living together in bands, they would have been division of labor and possible care for the elderly or injured. Let's first move on to post Archaic Homo sapiens, Homo heidelbergensis. So this fossil, it has been uncovered from a wide range of European locality, which indicate its widespread occupation. So first, it has been discovered from Germany, Mauer jaw, and this specimen of Homo heidelbergensis is Mao mandible, which is found near Heidelberg, Germany. This jawbone, it lacked a chin, which is a modern feature, but still it had some primitive feature, like it was more robust than modern human, modern Homo sapiens. Then from Spain, Atapuerca or Cima de los Visos, it is a major paleoanthropological treasure trove. And this site, the Cima de los Visos, also known as Pit of Bones, it has yielded over 6,000 fossil remains from at least 28 individuals. So these fossils, they exhibit both Heidelbergensis-like or Neanderthal-like traits. Then from France and Greece, so first Arago cave in France and Petrolona cave in Greece, they have also provided cranial and mandibular features that are consistent with Homo heidelbergensis. And all these features, all these fossils, they show how widespread this particular archaic Homo sapiens was. Now, chronology and evolutionary placement. So Homo heidelbergensis is dated between 600,000 to 200,000 years ago, placing in Middle Pleistocene epoch, the era characterized by glacial and interglacial phases. Then, some scholars view Homo heidelbergensis as the last common ancestor of Neanderthal and modern humans. Then it has features that make it a mosaic species, which bridges the anatomical and behavioral gap between Homo erectus and later hominins. Or in short, it provides a key between how Homo erectus might have evolved into later hominins, later Homo sapiens, both anatomically and behaviorally. Then cranial and skeletal features, cranial capacity 1200 to 1350 cc, which is again significant expansion from Homo erectus. Fair brow ridges, so it has massive double arch supraorbital torus, massive brow ridges, a primitive feature, and this feature it distinguish it from both Neanderthal and Homo erectus. So एक unique point है याद रखने के लिए. Now post-orbital constriction. Post-orbital constriction means narrowing of skull behind the eyes. Like these are the eye sockets और यहाँ से जो reduction है, this narrowing, this constriction, it is known as post-orbital constriction. फिर मुझे याद आ रहा है कि in previous video might in the video of Homo erectus या फिर Homo habilis, I might have mixed something up. Look, जो ये जो orbits हैं, that's why this name post-orbital. तो eye sockets हैं, उनको orbit यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं. Post-orbital means behind it. So when there is a bony ring behind it, a bone that is in shape of ring, it is known as post-orbital bar. Post-orbital bar. Now this nomenclature, bar है या plate है, it depends on its enclosure. If the bony ring it encloses the eye sockets, then it is known as plate. If it doesn't enclose them, it is known as bar. So these are the three confusing terms. Post-orbital bar is a bony ring behind eye socket that is not closed. Post-orbital plate is a bony ring that has been foreclosed. And constriction, it is the narrowing of skull behind eyes. And ये suggest करता है कि brain expand नहीं हुआ है. And when this post-orbital constriction reduces, it shows that the brain is expanding, it is widening. So यहाँ पे archaic Homo sapiens में this post-orbital constriction it was reducing, which shows sign of widening of frontal lobes near to the eye sockets, which shows a sign of increased brain complexity. जैसे हमारे अंदर है Homo sapiens में, तो जो मॉडर्न Homo sapiens ब्रेन है या स्कल है, उसको आप एक रेफरेंस की तरह मान सकते हैं. We do not have the prominent constriction क्योंकि we have the we have volume of brain inside that skull. तो जैसे जैसे ये ब्रेन के अंदर वॉल्यूम आता गया, तो डिफरेंट एरियाज जो है, नियो कॉर्टेक्स हो गया, प्रीफ्रंटल कॉर्टेक्स हो गया, या जो बैक ऑफ ब्रेन एरिया है और विजुअल, सब धीरे धीरे जैसे जैसे एक्सपैंड होते गए, जो तो साथ ही स्कल का जो शेप है इट बिकेम मोर राउंडेड, या स्कल जो है धीरे धीरे एक्सपेंड होते गया. नाउ स्कल वॉल्ट, तो यहाँ पे ब्रेन केस इज मोर राउंडेड एंड हायर. So again, which is a feature of Homo sapiens. Then mandible and dentition. Mandible means lower jaw. So the Mauer jaw from Germany, it reveals no chin, which is a primitive trait, but it shows a strong and thick structure and large teeth adapted for a coarse diet. हमारे अंदर तो चिन्ह है. Now the postcranial anatomy. Look, बहुत सारी चीजें जो है मैं यहाँ पे से डिटेल में नहीं समझा रहा हूँ, क्योंकि बहुत सारी जो टर्म्स हैं, टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं, कंसेप्ट्स हैं, वो पिछले वाले वीडियोस में भी अच्छे से समझाए जा चुके हैं. बट इवन इफ इट इज इफ यू कम अप विद समथिंग दैट यू नीड एक्सप्लेनेशन, कमेंट बॉक्स में पूछ सकते हैं. नाउ द पोस्ट cranial मींस द बॉडीली adaptations. So the post-cranial remains are less complete, but जितने भी fossils हैं, they show that Homo heidelbergensis had a strong and stocky build, which was suited for physically demanding lifestyle in cold climate. Look, the Pleistocene epoch, it was very harsh. So ऐसे में mobility and physical endurance both were necessary. So जितने भी archaic species हैं, all of them they had strong, robust structures. And the limb bones, which are robust and a large joint surface, indicate powerful musculature and frequent use of forceful activities such as pair thrusting or heavy lifting. So ultimately, in short, आप archaic Homo sapiens में एक जो common trait, unique trait देखेंगे, तो all of them were unique. All of them were robust, physically robust, and had an physically stressful lifestyle. Now, the cultural and technological traits. First, Acheulean tool tradition, uh, with which Homo heidelbergensis is primarily associated with, and Acheulean tool tradition, जैसे Homo habilis में बताया था, it include bifacial hand axes. Still, they're made up of stone tools, but more refined than the old one tools. Hand axes, the tools, they were bifacially sharp, cleavers and scrapers. And sometimes these tools were often made using lever-lower technique. Lever-lower technique is a method in which first core is prepared. A stone core is prepared. फिर stone core को gradually with the application of mechanical principle and equally applied force, flakes are taken out. वो next इसमें या फिर lower Paleolithic में हम discuss करते हैं. Now the shelter construction. So some evidence from sites like Terra Amata suggests construction of simple wooden structure that might have indicated foresight, planning, and seasonal occupation of sites. And this is a significant development. अगर उसका evidence मिलते हैं, so it would be a significant advancement in departure from Homo erectus, क्योंकि Homo erectus में there has not been any confirmed evidence of shelter construction. With hunting behavior, so the most striking piece of evidence, it came from Schörning, Germany. Uh, that's how it is pronounced, Schörning, Germany, where wooden spear that date back to around 400,000 were found inside large game animals such as horses, which is again confirmed evidence. So this well-balanced throwing spear, it imply use of cooperating hunting technique. Whereas of symbolic behavior and mortuary practices, so this side, the pit of the bone, Sema Dialovisus, it suggests that archaic Homo sapiens, they might have a taste with early symbolic and mortuary behavior, since numerous skeletal they were deposited deep in cave pit, which suggests intentional placement. Intentional placement is again one of burial or mortuary practices, where a single hand axe made of red quartzite, it was also found in that pit, and this might have been, a precursor to burial practice. And this hand axe, it was nicknamed Excalibur by archaeologists. Now, the significance in human evolution. So, first, they represent a critical evolutionary link, especially for Europe. And these species, they form the basis of Neanderthal lineage and potentially contributed to gene pool of modern humans. Then the importance via the angle of paleoanthropology. So this species of archaic Homo sapiens, it has transformed our understanding of Middle Pleistocene hominins, and it suggests the gradual emergence of modern human trait in both anatomy and culture. जो पहले भी बताया था कि all of the archaic Homo sapiens, they usually forestay this particular explanation, how how Homo erectus transitioned into Homo sapiens. So that key piece of evidence, that uh, crucial link, it was explained by archaic Homo sapiens. Now the taxonomic controversy. So some anthropologists they propose a broad definition which include African and Asian specimen like Rhodesian Man, Jinniushan, all of all of are debated to be placed under Homo heidelbergensis, whereas other they advocate for regional variant with separate species, not of particular. Now, the Rhodesian man from Africa. Again, Rhodesian man, he provide crucial evidence of evolutionary transition from Homo erectus to modern Homo sapiens, especially from the angle of African lineage. First fossil discovery, it was discovered in 1921 at Broken Hill Mine in Kabwe in Zambia. Formerly, it was known as Northern Rhodesia, and the fossil it was found in a limestone cave during mining operation, and it include skull, maxilla means upper jaw, mandible means lower jaw, maxilla upper jaw, and some limb bones. So first it was classified as Homo rhodesiensis, but later they place it within Archaic Homo Sapiens, or they relate it to African variant of Homo heidelbergensis. Now age, so estimated age is around 300,000 to 125,000. So this age coincided with the emergence of modern Homo sapiens, where the geological time, the Middle Pleistocene epoch, time of major climatic fluctuation. Then this was the same broad time frame in which other archaic forms such as Homo heidelbergensis in Europe, Jinniushan and Narmada Man in Asia, in China and India. Cranial characteristic, cranial capacity 1300, which is comparable to modern Homo sapiens, but significant improvement to that of Homo erectus, suggesting advanced cognitive abilities. Then cranial bones and shape. So the skull is thick and robust with low and sloping forehead. जो अभी आपको explain किया. Forehead is angling backward. And both of these are archaic feature, but a subtle sign of modernization, a gradual dilution towards the feature of Homo sapiens, towards the morphology of Homo sapiens. Then brow ridges, supraorbital torus, they are extremely large and continuous. Again, a primitive feature and uh, more pronounced than most Homo sapiens. वो तो जानते हैं. Occipital region, which means the shape of skull in the backside. So this back it shows a rounded occipital region, but a clear occipital bun is not there. So यहाँ पे दो features दिख रहे हैं, mosaic features. This one is this one is a primitive feature, rounded occipital, but no bun is there, which means a shift towards more modern human morphology. Where nasal aperture, so nasal opening is broad and high, possibly adaptation to warm and dry climate. So again, you can see that the variation. Now, यहाँ पे वो चीज़ आपको समझ में आएगी. When we study the European variant, Homo heidelbergensis, it has the nasal opening that are broad and high. And यहाँ पे, and the European one, it was suited to cold and arid climate. Now this one, यहाँ पे जो African archaic Homo sapien had, Rhodesian man, it also had broad and high nasal aperture, which is which is a necessary condition for warm and dry climate according to Allen and Bergman rule. तो यहाँ पे दोनों में जो similarity है, it suggests two things. First, the dispersal, that the African variant might have dispersed sooner than we thought. ये चीज़ इसमें insights में नहीं आती है. एंड द सेकंड थिंग, बिकॉज ये इसलिए नहीं आती क्योंकि जो सेकंड जो चीज़ है कस्टमाइज वेरिएशन, दैट मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ their endurance running, because of their physical stress, and because of the arid climate, even if it was cold, that the species of cold climate they might have had the same feature जो warm climate में होते हैं. In any way, we should not consider we should not consider the nasal aperture of Homo heidelbergensis to be an anomaly from Allen and Bergman rule. It is just an local adaptation, a customized adaptation to the Pleistocene epoch of that particular species, which were highly mobile and physically robust. Where facial and dental features की बात करते हैं, so it has a large had a large face with massive cheekbones and broad nasal bridge. तो nasal bridge means जो हमारे नोस्ट्रिल के जो बीच में दोनों दोनों जो नोस्ट्रिल के नेजल ओपनिंग है, उनके बीच में ब्रिज जो है वो प्रोमिनेंट नहीं है. बट सम स्पीशीज, कुछ प्राइमेट्स के अंदर, कुछ मंकीज के अंदर भी वो ब्रिज जो है वो प्रोमिनेंट होता है, यू नो, थिक एंड मसल. So the same feature was seen in Rhodesian man. Then the face, it projects slightly forward, means prognatism is there, but it is less so than in Homo erectus. So we can say there was a reduction in facial prognatism towards that of human face, towards a facial morphology of Homo sapiens. The mandible and chin की बात करते हैं, lower jaw and chin. The jaw, it was thick and heavy, but no chin. So again, यहाँ पे chin, the absence of chin, it suggests a primitive trait. फिर teeth की बात करते हैं, the molars and premolars are large and heavy, which again a primitive trait and suggest the diet, it was consisted of rough plant material, abrasive plant material, and possibly raw meat. However, a slight reduction of the trend in tooth size compared to Homo erectus, with post-cranial features, robust body build with strong bones and muscular attachments, again a feature of archaic Homo sapiens of Pleistocene epoch, and such robusticity was adopted for physically demanding lifestyle, such as walking long distance, hunting, and they may have been sexual dimorphism because यहाँ पे this thing is inferred. Where cultural and technological trait, so Rhodesian man was associated with early MSA tools, Middle Stone Age tools of Africa, and that may have include prepared core tool like Lavalua technique, points and scrapers, and flake with retouched edges. All in all, they were quite advanced tools than that of Acheulean and Oldowan tools, more refined, and might have required planning, standardization, and cognitive foresight. Then, no direct evidence of fire or shelter, but then contemporary MSI today of that time, it suggests occasional use of fire and possibly simple rock shelter. So here, culturally and even um, uh, physically, Rhodesian man was quite more more tilted towards Homo erectus than that of modern Homo sapiens. Then subsistence might have engaged in hunting and scavenging, and relied on cooperating method for large game. Again, a feature of archaic Homo sapiens. For symbolic behavior, no conclusive evidence of art ornaments, but then this behavior is inferred from increasing brain size and tool complexity. Now, significance. So, Rhodesian man is central to understanding African pathway of human evolution, especially when we understand the Africa से जो out of Africa hypothesis है. So, if Homo erectus moved out of Africa, तो उस टाइम तक उस species के, उस mobile subspecies के कौन-कौन से traits evolve हो चुके थे, and how the species that stayed in Africa, उसमें कौन-कौन से advancement हुए थे. Then, as of transitional species, it exhibits a mix of primitive and modern traits. Again, a classical example of transitional forms, and it is often considered to be an ancestor of modern humans, especially of African population, and some regard it as an African variant of Homo heidelbergensis, where there is a debate about taxonomic placement. So this debate is still underway. Some place it in Homo heidelbergensis, other retain the name Homo rhodesiensis. whereas a few classified as archaic Homo sapiens. So you can see the dichotomy, not just dichotomy, trichotomy, which means triple interpretation. Where let's move on to Asia, Jinniushan Man. Now basic background same है, time frame same है, जो physical features हैं वो same है. Just I need to brush up with localized details. So the remains of Jinniushan Man, it was discovered in 1984 at Jinniushan at Liaoning province, northeastern China. The fossil it includes well-preserved partial skull, lower jaw, mandible, and nearly complete femur. Then there were also associated stone tools and faunal remains, where age and chronology placed around 260,000 years ago. Again, Pleistocene period common framework, and this time frame overlapped with other archaic Homo sapiens such as Rhodesian Man and Homo heidelbergensis, where cranial capacity, remarkably large brain size, around 1390 cc, even larger than to that of modern Homo sapiens, where cranial bones. So here there is a unique distinction. So unlike other archaic Homo sapiens who had thick cranial wall, Jinniushan man had thin cranial bone, which is a modern trait. The cranial vault and shape. So high cranial vault with a more rounded brain case. Again, both trends uh, match up with that of modern Homo sapiens, show a trend of modernization. और उसी के कंपैरिजन में अगर होमो इरेक्टस को देखें, इट हैड अ लो elongated skull of homo erectus, low low skull, sloping and elongated one with occipital one. So you can see the clear evolutionary departure here, और ये एक unique feature है. Where brow ridges, so the brow ridges, they are pronounced prominent but less massive than seen in European archaic population, means Homo heidelbergensis. So with this less pronounced brow ridges suggest regional variation in skull skeletal morphology. Here, occipital region, the back of the skull. So the occipital bone shows some thickening, but not the pronounced occipital one seen in later Neanderthal, which means occipital bones are there. The skull is the occipital region, it is pronounced. One is there, but both of these are not as pronounced as Homo erectus or other archaic Homo sapiens, which again gradual movement towards modernization. Here, facial and dental features. So the face, it was relatively broad with moderate prognathism, means face is sticking out, and this suggests a transitional morphology. The nasal opening, again broad and large, which is consistent to cold climate. Now I am not going to further explain it. So these large and broad opening that might have held warm and humid inhaled dry and cold air during ice age condition. Where dentition, teeth are robust but show early sign of reduction, again a mixed trait, and also suggest a mixed diet of meat and plant resources and processed food. With postcranial features, so femur, it suggests Jinniushan man was a large stature, over 170 centimeter 5'7" tall, and heavily built. Where full adaptation, the overall body structure, stocky build with shorter limbs, is consistent with Bergman's and Allen's rule. And again, यहाँ पे ये चीज समझानी होगी. Build is stocky and limbs are shorter, which in terms of physics, it has reduced surface area. Where colder climate में, when the air, the climate, everything around you is constantly nagging at you. The cold air, the cold climate, it is constantly trying to grip you. ऐसे में surface area जितना कम होगा, उतनी ही ज़्यादा उतना ही प्रोटेक्शन होगा और उतनी ही कम हीट एक्सचेंज होगा, जो दूसरे इनवर्सली यू कैन सी सरफेस एरिया कम होगा तो यू कैन प्रिजर्व मोर हीट, और यही अगर सरफेस एरिया ज़्यादा होगा, यू हैव लॉन्ग स्टेचर, लिम्स लॉन्ग है, सरफेस एरिया ज़्यादा है, तो अम, जो क्या बोल सकते हैं, जो हीट लॉस है वो ज़्यादा होगा. So it is a talk about heat loss versus heat retention. So that's what Allen and Bergman rule is. फिर cultural and technological traits की बात करते हैं. So the Jinniushan fossil is associated with Acheulean-like tools that include hand axes, cleaver, and flake tools using prepared board technique, the Levallois method. Where habitation, it shows that they were capable of seasonal hunting, possibly targeting large ice age mammals, and they may have been temporary shelters or cave use. Where significance, Jinniushan Man is an example of how human evolution in Asia is following a distinct yet parallel trajectory. And this fossil, it shows both archaic trait and modern trait. And this supports the idea that regional continuity with gene flow was there, the multi-regional evolution hypothesis, which suggests that the modern Homo sapiens, they evolved parallelly in different parts of the world. And जो उनकी bodily features हैं, physical morphological features हैं, वो भी उसी के हिसाब से जो regional adaptation है, regional variation है, उनके according adapt हुए. Then the other significance that it might have been an early ancestor to modern East Asian, where taxonomic debate. So some classify under Archaic Homo Sapiens, where other consider him as a late Asian Homo erectus, which was evolving towards modernity. Then there is also debate whether Asian archaic population, they contributed genetically to modern humans of East Asia, or they were later replaced by out of Africa migrants. So again this debate, इसका genetical evidence जो है अभी है नहीं. Now let's move on to Asia, Narmada Man. So again, Narmada Man, it significant discovery in Indian subcontinent. And even though the fossil material is fragmentary, but it provides evidence that the human evolutionary journey, it travels through India. A fossil site. So this fossil was discovered in 1982 in Narmada Valley near Hatnora village, Sikor district of Madhya Pradesh. And discovery include cranium, skull cap, which was embedded in Pleistocene sediment along with Acheulean tools. And this find was made by A.R. Sankhya, where it is dated around 200 to 150,000 years ago. Again, middle Pleistocene time frame सबकी same है. The cranial capacity, brain volume 1200 to 1400 cc, comparable to that of archaic Homo sapiens. The cranial vault, thick cranial vault, again a primitive feature similar to Homo erectus, indicates its robusticity, but also have rounded cranial vault, which hint at shift towards modern morphology, a trend towards modernization. With brow ridges prominent and continuous supraorbital tori brow ridges, eyebrows are uh, prominent but not as massive as seen in European Homo heidelbergensis. So again, a dilution of trend consistent with archaic trend retained from Homo erectus, where absence of facial bones, so no facial bones, no cheekbone, no mandible, or post-cranial remain. So because of this, full anatomical assessment, especially prognathism, they are limited. Where mosaic morphology. So again, not only now the men, all of the fossils of archaic Homo sapiens, they show a blend of primitive and derived traits. Some from Homo erectus and some moving towards Homo sapiens. And all of them suggest a good example of evolutionary mosaicism. And the postcranial traits which are inferred, because no postcranial bones, no other bones of the bones of body were discovered, but with the comparative anatomy and looking into the regional archaeological context, they suggest it had a robust body, possibly adapted to open grassland, endurance running, and post time the presence of megafauna, especially the Elephas nomadicus stegodon, जो उस वक्त की जो mammoth species हैं, they suggest that none of the men might have been a big game scavenger or hunter. फिर culture and technological trait, तो जो उस साइट पे जो tools मिले हैं उसके हिसाब से Acheulean type tools हैं that include hand axes, cleavers, flakes, scrapers, aligned with the mode 2 technology, which means shift towards lower to middle Paleolithic, where as a behavioral aspect, no clear evidence of symbolic behavior, fire use, burials are found. But the bigger brain, it suggests planning ability, cognitive skills, and perhaps basic social cooperation. Where taxonomic interpretation and debate. So there is a debate around classification of Narmada men under archaic Homo sapiens or an advanced form of Homo erectus uh, present in India, the Indian branch, or might be possible early Homo sapiens sapiens. Where again, as with other archaic Homo sapiens, it is a transitional hominin that acting as a bridge between Homo erectus to that of modern Homo sapiens. Fossil is it also provides support to both multi-regional and out of Africa model. So the multi-regional theory it sees none of them as an evidence of regional continuity of archaic human evolving into modern Indians, and the same picture can be drawn in various regions. यूरोप का अपना एक अलग आर्किक होमो सेपियन है, हेडलबर्गेंसिस है, फिर ईस्ट एशिया जीनोशा मैन है, अफ्रीका रूडिजन मैन है, तो वैसे ही इंडिया का भी नॉर्मदा मैन है एंड इट लैंड क्रेडिबल सपोर्ट टू द मल्टी रीजनल हाइपोथेसिस. Where out of Africa theory, it also suggests that nomada men might have been replaced by the modern humans that migrate out of Africa. Where significance, it provides direct fossil evidence to archaic humans in India, helping a major gap in South Asian paleoanthropology. Where conclusion, so the study reveals an important transitional phase in human evolution between Homo erectus and anatomically modern humans. तो ये जो बेसिक चीज़ें जो हैं, बिकॉज बाकी सब जो डिटेल्स हैं उस उनके कंपैरिजन में आर्कैइक होमो सेपियंस की स्टडी काफ़ी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है, क्योंकि सर्टेन फीचर्स वो सब सिमिलर है, सबके अंदर प्रोमिनेंट सुप्राऑर्बिटल टॉरस हैं, सबके ऑक्सीपिटल वन है, और फिर ग्राउंडेड्स के बाकी जितने भी क्रेनियल पोस्ट क्रेनियल फीचर्स की बात करें तो सब ब्लेंड है और सारे के सारे फीचर्स हैं, दे आर डाइल्यूटिंग, दे आर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स मॉडर्नाइजेशन. तो द स्टोरी इज क्वाइट यू कैन से प्रिडिक्टेबल, और ये याद रखना भी इजी रहेगा. Then in Europe, Homo heidelbergensis, it showed a large brain, heavy brow ridges, and evidence of organized hunting. In Africa, Rhodesian man displayed robust cranial features, often seen as direct ancestor of modern humans. China, uh, Jinniushan man or Narmada man in India, they reflect a regional variant with mixed trait, large cranial capacity, thick bone, and Acheulean tool association. All in all, archaic sapiens demonstrate that human evolution was not uniform but shaped by migration, environment, and adaptation. In short, with human migration, it was not linear, neither linear, and it also supported regional variations. This is it. फिर कुछ अगर इसमें मिसिंग हो तो आप कमेंट कर सकते हैं. Then I want to request one thing. I want you to support free education. So if you have found these lectures helpful, you can consider supporting my work with a voluntary contribution. This is my UPI, and any contribution, it is totally voluntary, and any contribution is appreciated so that I can continue making good videos. So this is it. So subscribe, contribute if you can, and otherwise keep studying. That's it. Thanks again.